raised in the Lone Star Land, with boots on my feet and dreams in my hand. A little sassy but a whole lot of grace. You'll see that fire when you look at my face. I'm a Texas girl with a heart so wide, family and friends always by my side. From the crack of dawn to the stars at night, I keep it real, keep my soul burning bright. Barbecue smoke, Friday night lights, cheering for the Astros under Texas skies. A little bit stubborn, a whole lot of charm. This big old heart will keep you warm. I'm a Texas girl with a heart so wide, family and friends always by my side. From the crack of dawn to the stars at night, I keep it real, keep my soul burning bright. Barbecue smoke, Friday night lights, cheering for the Astros under Texas skies. A little bit stubborn, a whole lot of charm. This big old heart will keep you warm. I'm a Texas girl with a heart so wide, family and friends always by my side. From the crack of dawn to the stars at night, I keep it real, keep my soul burning bright. From the blue bonnet fields to the city streets, every step I take feels like home to me. With a little sass and a lot of pride, this Texas girl's got nothing to hide. I'm a Texas girl with a heart so wide, family and friends always by my side. From the crack of dawn to the stars at night, I keep it real, keep my soul burning bright. Gummy shoe prints, laid them down the street. Chocolate wrappers hiding secrets sweet. They don't miss a beat, they've got a knack. With licorice ropes pulling answers back. Twist the wrapper to reveal the truth. A sticky web spun by a candy slough. No sour lies can escape the grip. These lollipops all
Sebastian, sweet boy, where have you gone? The sun sets low, but we keep marching on. The wind whispers your name soft through the pines, a melody aching in these hearts of mine. Roads are endless, the nights are cold, but your story's a light we'll never let go. Where are you, sweet boy Sebastian? We're searching the hills, the rivers, the plains. You deserve better, oh you deserve better. And your army is fighting through heartache and pain. Your laughter once rang like bells through the air. Now silence just lingers, it's more than we can bear. We carry your memory, a flag in our hands. Through shadows and valleys, through shifting sands. The roads are endless, the nights are cold, but your story's a light we'll never let go. Where are you, sweet boy Sebastian? We're searching the hills, the rivers, the plains, you deserve better. Oh, you deserve better, and your army is fighting through heartache and pain. Your laughter once rang through heartache and pain.
Well, hello, my friends. How are y'all doing today? Thank you all for being here. I hope y'all have had a really good day today. Thanks for coming back and hanging out with me. Hello, Miss Peggy. Hey, me and you. Tap dancer Lizzie. Oh, thank you. I hope so. I hope I do as well. But don't let me forget when I get through saying hello to everybody. Let me remind y'all or tell y'all about what happened with that live. Oh, goodness. Let's see who else we have here. Hey, Miss Kathy. Hello, Miss Rhonda. Good to see you. Let me see here. Hello, Lori. Trying to get through here. Doo-doo-doo. Hey, Cecilia, how you doing? Good to see you. Hey, TJ. Good to see you. Let me see here. Hi, Pat. Good to have you with us. Hey, Daniel. Hold on, I'm scrolling. Hey, Jen, how you doing, my beautiful friend? Hope you are well. Hello, Keely. How are you? Good to have you with us. Let's see here. Mama, how you doing? Miss Peggy Cock, hello. Kimberly, hello. Lisa King, thank you so much for the Cash App. I appreciate you. Hey, Mama, good to see you. And Blue Eyes, how are you doing, love? Let's see here. Daisy Dukes, hello to you. Teresa, hello. So good to have you with us. Hey, Cool Cougar, how you doing? Marion, hello to you. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, that's right. Hi, Sandy. Oh, cook us something good, Sandy. Hey, Miss Fran, how you doing? Cold weather in a few days. That's right. That's how it is here. It's crazy. Up in the high 70s this week, and then within about 3 more days, we'll be in the freezing temperatures again. Valley Gal, how you doing? Good to have you. Let's see here. Anybody else coming in? Anybody? Diana, hi. So good to have you with us. Let's see here. Kai, how you doing? Hello. SI, how you? Hello, Michelle. Yeah. Get my banner up, huh? Yeah. Got to do all the things. It's crazy, but we got to. Aloha, JH. So good to have you with us. Hi, Nancy. Good to have you with us today. Do. Let's see here. I think I might have got everybody. If I missed you, I'm sorry. But welcome to everybody. Thank you all for being here. Those are sitting back in the bushes, enjoying, just listening. Thank y'all for being here. Anybody on replay, thank y'all so much for coming in and listening. Is Bobby in here? Bobby, are you here? Did I miss Bobby? I didn't see her. Hold on. Maybe I need to check my chat filter. Oh, look at there. I didn't have all of it on there. Oh my goodness. I hope I didn't miss anybody because of that. I just don't see Bobby. Is Bobby here? Bobby, I missed you. Hope you're well, Bobby. I had asked about you yesterday. I asked anybody if they had seen you. Looky here, Miss Rhonda. Oh, a member for 17 months, Miss Rhonda. My goodness. Love you so much. Thank you for being with me that long. I love having your support. Oh, goodness. We got some stuff to talk about. Oh, yeah. Yesterday, guys, on our live yesterday, the whole purpose of that live was to show Seth and his frustration, his anger, and all the stuff, and how Seth's anger was all because of Sebastian and things pertaining to his son, compared to Mr. Chris's anger, which is always about when he gets caught in something or somebody says anything negative, right? So that was the whole purpose of it, just to show the contrast between the two types of anger there. Due to Seth's language of choices, my live and my ad revenue will not be very much at all. Oh, it was like crazy. I didn't even think about it, but yeah, YouTube didn't like that language too much. But it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Oh, look, Miss Rhonda. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. Mama, welcome to the membership, Mama. So glad you got a membership. Miss Rhonda, thank you so much. Please tell her thank you. And Mama, welcome to the South.
Welcome to the South. We break that good stuff out. We got enough to go around. So can I get a amen in there? Welcome to the South.
Thank you so much, Miss Rhonda. I love you for that. And Mama, welcome to the Lollipops. So good to have you with us. But yeah, I get only like partial, just a tiny bit of ad revenue. I was like, oh my gosh. It is what it is. But anyways, I don't know if y'all can hear the dogs howling. My son left again. His dog howls and then gets all the other dogs a howling. But oh, yeah, they'll get me every time. It's funny how some people do it every single day, but yet they make all the big bucks, right? Make that one make sense. Not saying any names, of course, but hey, it is what it is. Oh, well, I think our point was made. I know, because they're drama and we're not. Exactly. Exactly. I don't know why I don't get it. I don't get it, Lisa. And I don't understand why the drama can. If I was to do a drama live right now, I would get 100,000 views on it. Easy peasy. People flock for the drama. I don't know if their lives are just kind of blah and mundane and they got nothing to really do. So they enjoy that. I don't know. I don't get it. Not for me, that's for sure. No, it was the language because I did a review of it to see what had happened. Hey, Miss Ann, how you doing? Welcome, welcome. And it was the language. It was the language. So, anyways, it is what it is. I was like, my goodness. We finally had a really good live and had some good numbers to it and got dinged. But it's all good. It's all good. Oh, but anyways, hope everybody's doing good, having a good day. Like I said, it's a beautiful day here. Sun is shining. Started out real foggy, super foggy this morning. But it was a pretty day. Right now, this afternoon, the clouds are starting to come in. We got a chance of rain over the next couple of days. 91 and only 45. Oh, I thought you were talking temperature for a minute. I was like, whoa. Hi, cat lady. Thanks for being here. I know, right, Teresa? I don't have enough time. I don't have the energy to watch it. I really don't. Your fruit trees need the rain. Only 68 on the beach. Oh, Lori, that's glorious. That's like perfect weather. Not too hot, not too cold, just perfect. 40 here, rain, then ice. Oh my goodness, Cecilia. That's awful cold for me. But oh well. Oh well, oh well, oh well. So, all this talk about Katie and stuff, I was going to bring this up and mention it. Seems like, and just so you know, don't have receipts, but I have heard she has started her own business, which makes sense to me now because in the beginning, she wasn't working for Brinks after Sebastian went missing. But she started her own business and has applied for a license in Georgia. Wonder if that could be really true. I don't know. We're hearing they're moving to Arizona. I'm hearing they're together. Then I hear they're not together. And she's going to Georgia. Starting to wonder if it was actually Mr. Carr behind their house that she was with. I don't know. Or was it the one that's putting their house up for sale right now? He's single. Guys, myself, along with moderators, subscribers, and anyone in chat express their opinions. On this channel, we present speculations, possibilities, and show things found for everyone to decide for themselves what opinion they have. We're here for helpful purposes only, not here for drama, hate, or anything negative. Please respect all opinions. And as always, my content is not to be used in a negative way at any time. So, with that being said, and like I say, guys, I don't know. I know, me and you, I've heard the same. There's nothing been filed yet, but I do hear they are not together. So, I don't know. Kelly E says, oh no, don't me. Oh, hey, hippie chick, how you doing? Hey, Jilly Bee, Marianne, Narita, everybody coming in. Hello to y'all. Cinderella, hello to you. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. Hey, Brenda Sue. Good to see you. Thank you all for being here. Hey, Rose. Yes, Mr. Carr started a new business, but will be in jail soon, in my opinion. Allegedly, they're on the market again. Oh. We'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, all the answers to all the questions will hopefully be answered soon. Narita says, I'm in Georgia too. Oh, go you. You be on the lookout. Linda Nunley, hello to you, girl. Thank you for being here. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I just pray that one day is going to be the day that we hear the words, and we get to say, oh my gosh, there's going to be a trial. Maybe answers will come. It would be even greater. I mean, hugely greater if we could wake up one day and get to say, Sebastian Rogers has been found. He is safe. He is alive. And he is doing well. Wouldn't that be amazing? Oh, I pray we get answers, whatever that answer is. Katie's new business specializing in child. Okay, that one was kind of funny, but not really. Couldn't help but laugh. Yeah, maybe that's why she's studying business administration. But I mean, think about it, friends. If you lived in that area and you ordered a Brink security, would you want Katie in your house with your children or grandchildren? I wouldn't. I don't know that I would. I don't know that I would be very comfortable with all that's been said and done and all in the news and have Katie Proudfoot walk in. Environmental night stalking. Yeah, so I think that caused issues, and that was the reason she no longer was working at Brinks. Oh no, Sandy said I set my stove on fire. Oh no. Oh my gosh. That's funny. My daughter did that one time. I told her she could never cook again. She's like, all I was doing was trying to make canned biscuits. I'm like, oh, my daughter was never the cook of the family. But yeah, I think she's trying to do her own business. I think it has to do with installation of technology type of things. I'm not sure Mr. Chris has ever really got a permanent job. How would you like to buy a house from Kathy Bowersox? I wonder if it's hurt her business. I mean, that whole family is being scrutinized right now. I'm wondering how much all of this that's come out about them, the whole family, I wonder how much it has impacted them financially. It does take money to start a business. It really does. And something I was going to tell y'all yesterday when I was showing you the listing. Um, Let me pull it up so I can read it to you. But I could show it to you. But if you go to Zillow and look at their listing, oh goodness, hang on, let's do it. I'm going to show y'all because I don't want anybody saying, "Oh, you just reading that." Lord help us if we gave the wrong thing, right? Or said the wrong thing without a receipt. Okay, let me get it all pulled up. Come on now. There we go. Trying to type with my left hand. Not fun, not fun. All righty, here we go. Let me share this. So this is the listing for their home, okay? Here's their home. This is on Zillow, as you can see right here. So here's the amount, 746, their address. And if you notice, it doesn't say off market now. Okay? But also, you come down here, single family home, 746 100, built in 2005, $228 a square foot, 0.47 acres. Look right here. Estimated rent. I thought that was really different. There's several other houses that were for sale that I pulled up that did not have that listed anywhere. And it does say, oh, here it is at the top now, off market. And let me find what was sent to me yesterday. Hang on, let me find it. Someone sent this to me yesterday to explain the off market thing. So I was going to read it to you. But I thought the rent part was really peculiar because I pulled up other listings in that area. The one next door I pulled up, it had nothing there at all. It says on real estate sites, off market means a property isn't publicly listed on the MLS, avoiding booking advertising for privacy or strategic reasons, often shared privately or as a pocket listing. So, anyways, I thought I would share that with y'all. Not sure what all of it means. Can't verify who's in there, but I thought that was very interesting. Very, very interesting. So, who knows what's happening, guys? Who knows? I'll tell you this. I have a feeling when I just really kind of stopped and been thinking about it a lot lately, as far as, we heard her van got wrapped and it was, to me, insinuated. I took it as if it was for Brinks. If you look up your own home, it will say off market. Yeah. We're just wondering if they were renting it out, Gina, because that's what the rumor on the street is. Sandy said, time to order out. Yeah, that happens when your oven catches on fire. Oh my gosh. Hey, got a secret. How you doing, girl? Yeah. Off market is to where, you don't go call in to make an appointment to go see it or anything like that. But to do a pocket listing, they call it, which is a owner finance type thing, those can happen. And that's what I've heard is happening there. But we'll see, time will tell. Time will tell. I just thought it was really, strange to see the rent on there, but who knows? Who knows? If go on your computer and go to Google Earth, you can reset the time to the day Sebastian went missing. Look at all the pictures. Oh, me and you, that's good to know. Look at here, everybody. Me and you sharing some info. If you go to the computer, go to Google Earth, you can reset the time to the day Sebastian went missing and look at all the pictures. Very interesting. I didn't know how to do that. Thank you for that. See, guys, we're learning. We're learning things. Hey, Kiki. Hey, hey. Oh, anyways. So today, the pressure cooker. The pressure cooker. I don't know if you know what a pressure cooker is, but it is a pot that you put a lid on it, and it has a little hole for the steam to come out because you have to lock it or the top will blow off when the pressure gets too much. I'm wondering if the pressure cooker has started. And then I've listened to this one. I think, honestly, it's AI generated, of course. And the channel name is Criminal Instinct. I come across this and I thought, okay, this is put out very well. The very beginning, it starts talking, and it does say that his glasses were left at home. No, his shoes were left at home. So that part got kind of mixed up there. But there's a lot of interesting points and something that I have mentioned as well. And we're going to listen to this. We're going to listen to about half of it today. And we'll talk about some things as we go through it, because a possible potential motive is the key. Out of the blue, you don't just make your child go missing. There has to be a motive behind it, a reason why. And I think we might have ran across something. So let's go ahead and listen to all this. And, of course, it would all be to save Mr. Chris. So here we go. Let's get busy. Before we do all that, I'm going to put our copyright banner down because we're going to listen, we're going to educate ourselves, and we're going to learn some things here. And, guys, as always, allegedly, in our opinions, is what this will be. All righty, here we go. Get some music. Soft music to play. And here we go. Let's listen.
About it every day. I dream that one day I'm gonna wake up and this is gonna be a nightmare. But yes, I believe that my son is out there somewhere. I believe that we are going to find him. We are going to bring him home.
There's no words, there's no way to put how this actually feels. And anybody that can, I don't see how.
Every day, it's like waking up to this reality that it's actually real. I mean, Sebastian should be home with us. I believe that my son is out there somewhere. I believe that we are going to find him. Katie Proudfoot's voice trembles with emotion. A mother's hope, a mother's plea. But the evidence says otherwise. On the night of February 25th, 2024, 5-year-old Sebastian Rogers vanished from his home in Hendersonville, Tennessee. No scent trail, no footprints, no exit. Massive search efforts turned up nothing. K9 units found no trace. Helicopters scoured the woods. Volunteers combed every inch of terrain. And yet, Sebastian was gone. But here's what investigators discovered. A timeline that doesn't add up. A household with secrets. And a stepfather whose story keeps changing. What if Sebastian Rogers never left home at all? What if the answer to his disappearance isn't in the woods behind his house, but inside the walls where he was last seen alive? This is the case they don't want you to question.
Okay, I'm going to stop it here because we know they went in, not at the very beginning, but later. And they did the sonar thing on all the walls in that home and found nothing.
But the evidence demands it. Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, 15 years old, a boy with bright eyes, a gentle spirit, and a diagnosis on the autism spectrum. He lived in Hendersonville, Tennessee, a quiet community in Sumner County, just north of Nashville. Sebastian loved routine. He thrived on predictability. And on the night of February 25th, 2024, he followed that routine one last time. According to his mother, Katie Proudfoot, and his stepfather, Chris Proudfoot, Sebastian went to bed around 9 p.m. that night. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. It was just another evening in the Proudfoot household. But sometime during the night, Katie says she heard a noise, a thud. She called out to Sebastian. In some versions of her story, he responded. In others, he didn't. The details shift depending on which interview you watch. By the next morning, Sebastian was gone. His bedroom was empty. His glasses, something he needed to see clearly, were left behind. The home showed no signs of forced entry. No windows were broken. No doors were left open. And yet, a 5-year-old boy with autism who had no...
Okay, this is AI generated. You can tell because a 5-year-old boy. He should have said 15, but he read the words, and it is 15.
history of running away had seemingly vanished into thin air. The response was immediate and massive. Local law enforcement launched a full-scale search. K9 units were deployed. Helicopters with thermal imaging swept the area. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation got involved. The FBI joined the effort. Volunteers from across the state poured into Hendersonville, combing through woods, fields, and waterways. Search teams covered thousands of acres, but they found nothing. No clothing, no footprints, no scent trail leading away from the house. It was as if Sebastian had simply ceased to exist. And that's when investigators started asking a different kind of question. Not where did Sebastian go, but how did he leave? And more importantly, did he leave at all? Because here's the problem. Nothing about this case makes sense. The timeline is fractured. The stories don't align. The physical evidence contradicts the narrative. And the two people who were supposed to protect Sebastian, the last two people to see him alive, can't keep their story straight.
Katie was the last person with her son. This woman that we're looking at right now, she was in the car with her child and took a 14-minute drive to get home. Took her an hour and a half. There's no proof that that child ever went in that door at his house. There's no proof he ever walked out of that house that night. I believe that hour and a half, if Katie would just tell the truth about it, we might learn something as to where Sebastian could be and what exactly happened.
Before we go further, I want to know, where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments. Let's see how far Sebastian's story has reached, because the more people who know his name, the harder it becomes to bury the truth. To understand what really happened to Sebastian Rogers, we have to start where every investigation starts: the timeline. In any missing person investigation, the timeline is sacred. It's the foundation upon which every theory, every search strategy, every investigative decision is built. Investigators need to know: when was the victim last seen? Who saw them? What were they doing? What happened next? These aren't optional details. They're the backbone of the case. And in the disappearance of Sebastian Rogers, that backbone is shattered. Let's start with the thud. Katie Proudfoot has told this story multiple times.
Notice how Katie is always either looking down or looking up.
But each time she tells it, the story changes. In one interview, she says she heard a noise around 10 p.m. She dismissed it, told Sebastian to go to sleep. Simple enough. But in another interview, the thud happens at 1 a.m. 3 hours later. That's not a minor discrepancy. That's a completely different timeline.
I don't recall hearing the 1 a.m. thud. Does anyone in chat recall hearing that? I don't remember a 1 a.m. thud or noise. Nope. Okay, cool gamer. I didn't either. Yeah. So I'm not sure where that came from or if that's even accurate.
A 3-hour gap changes everything. It changes the window of disappearance. It changes when Sebastian was last confirmed alive. It changes the entire investigative model. And then there's a third version. In this one, Katie describes a full verbal exchange. She hears the thud. She calls out to Sebastian through the door, and he responds, "No, ma'am," before she tells him to settle down and go back to sleep. So which is it? Was it 10 p.m. or 1 a.m.? Did Sebastian respond, or didn't he? These aren't small details you forget under stress. These are the last moments a mother heard her son's voice. And yet,
That's it. That's the key right there. The last moments that a mother heard her son's voice. That mother will never forget those last words. Trust me.
the story keeps changing. Pause for a second. In a missing child case, the timeline is everything. It's the backbone. And when that backbone is broken, the whole story falls apart. But it doesn't stop there. Katie's account of her own activities that evening is just as unstable. In early interviews, she says she sent Sebastian to bed at 9 p.m. and then she went to bed herself around midnight. Straightforward. But later, she adds new details. She was on the phone for a long period. She was intermittently falling asleep on the couch. Then, in yet another version, she says she was reading, working on a chapter for a business administration course. Reading, on the phone, falling asleep. These activities can't all be true at the same time.
Boom. These activities cannot be true at the same time. But yet Katie seems to think we're going to believe every time she tells a different story.
And this isn't about memory lapses. This is about the hours between 9 p.m. and midnight, the exact window when Sebastian was last known to be alive. If Katie can't maintain a consistent account of what she was doing during those critical hours, how can investigators trust anything else she says? When someone changes their story about their own behavior not once, but multiple times, it's not forgetfulness. It's reconstruction. It's narrative adjustment. And that's a red flag. Now let's talk about Chris Proudfoot. In one interview, Chris confidently states that he has taken a polygraph test. Not only that, he says he passed. He even suggests that both he and Katie passed their polygraphs, as if that settles the matter. But when pressed in a later interview, Chris changes his tune. He says polygraphs have been done, but he's vague about the details. And then, under direct questioning, he admits the truth. He has never taken a polygraph at all. Wait, what? You either took a polygraph or you didn't. This isn't a gray area. It's a yes or no question. And Chris has given both answers. Now,
That's Chris's favorite thing to do. He likes to give both answers. It causes confusion. It's more of a distraction. Let's concentrate on that daggum polygraph test and quit questioning where Chris was that night. Was he in Hendersonville or not? Let's quit talking about the possibility that he could have had something to do with Sebastian going missing, and let's make sure we concentrate on finding out if he passed a polygraph or not.
let's be clear, polygraphs aren't admissible in court. They're not reliable indicators of truth. But that's not the point. The point is that Chris lied about taking one. He used the claim as a shield, as proof of his innocence, and then later admitted it never happened. If he's willing to lie about that, what else is he lying about? Then there are the phone logs. Chris brings them up repeatedly, unprompted, in multiple interviews. He says the logs show that Katie was on the phone between 9:43 p.m. and 9:46 p.m., and that this proves she was awake and behaving normally during the crucial hours. But here's the problem.
The part that always got me was, how does a phone log show Katie is behaving normally during that timeline? That's inserting a narrative that cannot be proven by a phone log.
Phone logs don't clarify anything. They contradict the other versions of Katie's story. If she was on the phone, why does she say in another interview that she was reading? If she was reading, why does she describe being exhausted and falling asleep on the couch? And if she was awake and alert enough to be on the phone and reading, Why didn't she check on the thud? The phone logs don't exonerate anyone. They highlight the inconsistencies. Forensic investigators know this. When caregivers can't maintain a stable account of the final verified hours, the focus shifts inward. It has to. Because if the people closest to the victim can't tell a straight story about what happened, it's not the timeline that's broken, it's the narrative. And here's what makes this so painful. While Chris and Katie argue over timestamps, contradict themselves, and shift their stories, Sebastian is still missing. A child is gone, and the two people who should be providing clarity are instead creating confusion. A fractured timeline isn't just a credibility problem, it's a structural failure. When the foundation collapses, everything built on top of it becomes suspect. Every claim, every explanation, every defense. In this case, the timeline doesn't just contain gaps, it contains impossibilities. Sebastian can't have responded verbally at 10 p.m. and also fallen silently at 1 a.m. Katie can't have been reading, on the phone, and asleep at the same time. Chris can't have both taken and not taken a polygraph. These contradictions aren't subtle, they're glaring, and they force investigators to ask a question that no one wants to hear. If the people in that house can't tell the truth about the timeline, what else are they hiding? But the timeline isn't the only thing that doesn't add up. What happened next is even stranger. In the days immediately following Sebastian's disappearance, while...
Okay, I want everybody to stop and think about it. He is told just the first night happenings, that very night that they got home, supposedly from Texas Roadhouse, and the first couple of interviews in, and look at every single distraction and lie that's been told from the very, very beginning.
Search teams combed the woods and volunteers distributed flyers, something unusual happened. According to multiple community sources, Chris Proudfoot's parents, his mother and stepfather, made a sudden decision. They left Tennessee. And they didn't just leave the state, they drove to Alaska. Now, this detail remains unverified by law enforcement. It comes from community accounts, online discussions, and individuals close to the case. But if true, it raises questions that can't be ignored. Because in missing person investigations, sudden long-distance travel by family members, especially those connected to the household, is a red flag. Let's break down why this matters. First, the timing. According to reports, Chris's parents left shortly after Sebastian was reported missing. Not weeks later, not months later, immediately. In the early critical phase of the investigation, when most families stay close, offer support, and remain available to law enforcement, Chris's parents allegedly did the opposite.
Just like in the Summer Wells case, week 2, the grandmother leaves. Here, Sebastian's step-grandparents leave.
They put thousands of miles between themselves and the epicenter of the search. In forensic analysis, early post-incident behavior is one of the most reliable indicators of internal knowledge. People who have nothing to hide tend to stay put. They want to help. They want to be visible. They want to cooperate. But people who are connected to concealed actions often engage in what's called displacement behavior, creating physical distance, altering routines, removing themselves from scrutiny. Whether intentional or not, a sudden departure to one of the most remote regions in North America fits that profile. Second, the destination. Alaska isn't a typical travel choice for someone responding to a family crisis. It's not a place you go for a quick getaway or to clear your head. From Tennessee to Alaska, the driving distance exceeds 4,000 miles. You're crossing multiple states. You're crossing into Canada and back into the United States. You're entering a region with vast wilderness, low population density, and limited surveillance. Alaska's interior is one of the most difficult terrains in North America to search, monitor, or investigate. If someone wanted to create distance, not just physical, but operational, Alaska would be an effective choice. Now, let's talk about the method of travel. Reports indicate that Chris's parents drove to Alaska rather than flying, and from a forensic transportation perspective, that choice matters. Air travel, identity verification, security screening, and baggage checks. There's a paper trail. There are records. There are people handling your luggage, inspecting your belongings, and documenting your movement. Driving, on the other hand, allows continuous control. You maintain possession of your vehicle's interior for the entire journey. There are no mandatory inspections, no baggage handlers, no third-party oversight. You stop when you want. You travel through areas with minimal law enforcement presence, and if you're crossing into Canada, the border checkpoints are far less rigorous than airport security.
That was a very good point that was made right there. The travel to Alaska being their own vehicle made things a lot easier should they be concealing anything.
This doesn't prove anything, but it does establish feasibility. If someone wanted to transport something, anything, without detection, a private vehicle on a cross-country route provides far more autonomy than commercial air travel. And here's the question that investigators would naturally ask. Was the vehicle inspected before they left? In high-priority missing child cases, household vehicles are routinely examined. So are vehicles belonging to close relatives. If Chris's parents left Tennessee in the early days of the investigation, did law enforcement have the opportunity to inspect their vehicle? Did they request it? Was it granted? Without public confirmation, we don't know. And that gap in information is significant. Now, let's add context. At the time of Sebastian's disappearance, the Proudfoot household was under pressure. There was an active CPS investigation involving
An active CPS investigation. I want you to listen closely. I'm going to back up so we can start this part again. This, in my opinion, is every bit of the motive behind Sebastian's disappearance. And hello to everybody coming in. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate y'all so much. Hey, Cooper, hope you're feeling better.
gap in information is significant.
Here we
Now,
go. Listen.
let's add context. At the time of Sebastian's disappearance, the Proudfoot household was under pressure. There was an active CPS investigation involving Chris. There were allegations of inappropriate discipline, and Chris was in the middle of a custody battle over his daughter, Faith. If Sebastian's report to CPS was validated, it could have destroyed Chris's custody case.
Did y'all hear that? Let's go back and listen to that part again. An active CPS investigation involving Chris. There, in the middle of a custody battle over his daughter, Faith. Keep listening.
Faith. If Sebastian's report to CPS was validated, it could have destroyed Chris's custody case. That's not speculation, that's legal reality. Courts consider the treatment of all children in a household when assessing parental fitness. A confirmed CPS finding would have been devastating. So here's the picture. A household under legal scrutiny. A child who triggered that scrutiny suddenly disappears, and within...
So there was a case hearing that Sebastian was going to get to tell his story about all the abuse in that home. That case was before his custody hearing for Faith. Had that all come out, Chris would have lost possibly all of his time with his daughter. Within just 2 weeks prior to that CPS court hearing, Sebastian disappeared. And he was allowed to have his daughter that summer. To me, guys, that says a lot. That is motive to save him. Once again, it's all about him. Yeah, he said no one was going to keep him out of his house, right? He said Sebastian thought he could. And I think that's what he was thinking about when he said that. You see, it was January the 29th when the Superior Court judge asked for all the files, everything pertaining to Sebastian, his counseling reports, his CPS reports, all of it. Two weeks prior to that court hearing, Sebastian is gone. You can't have a hearing for a child that's missing. Conveniently, very sadly, and like I said, friends, it is my opinion that is the motive. All to save Mr. Chris. Katie made her choice. Her marriage was falling apart. Mr. Chris was out to dinner with himself, flirting with people in the restaurant, taking blind dates from an online site, meeting up with them at a bar. Katie didn't want to lose everything she had. If you stop and think about it, their marriage pretty much is the longest one he's ever had. I had a friend remind me today that it's all because she got along with his family so well. So well. Sebastian was in the way. That sweet face right there in front of us, he was in the way. I want you to look at the picture where Katie's supposedly fallen apart, laying on Mr. Chris's shoulder, and he's side-eyeing her, giving her no comfort at all. What a miserable position to be in.
Days, the stepfather's parents allegedly leave the state, driving thousands of miles to one of the most remote, difficult to investigate regions in the country. Is that a coincidence? Maybe. People travel for all kinds of reasons. Maybe they had plans. Maybe they needed space. Maybe they were grieving in their own way. But investigators don't dismiss patterns just because they might be coincidental. They examine them. They ask questions. They look for corroboration. And in this case, the Alaska departure exists in a zone where timing, logistics, and context all intersect.
Kelly Holcomb says, and that's exactly why they just couldn't hand him over to his daddy, because he still could testify. Yes, ma'am, 100%. And folks, I don't know if you remember, but we showed the law, showed where in the state of Tennessee, if whatever happened to a child happened at the age of them being a minor, if they come back home at the age of 18 and up, those charges can still happen. I don't know that they could take a chance in that happening. And that's what bothers me the most about this whole entire case.
It's not proof of involvement, but it's not irrelevant either. What do you think? Coincidence or something more? Let me know in the comments. Because here's the thing. When you map out the pressures surrounding the Proudfoot family in the weeks before Sebastian disappeared, a pattern starts to emerge. The CPS investigation, the custody battle, the timeline inconsistencies, and now, an unexplained cross-country departure. Each piece on its own might not mean much, but together, they start to tell a story. To understand why this trip matters, we need to talk about what was happening inside the Proudfoot home before Sebastian vanished. To understand the pressure inside the Proudfoot household in the weeks before Sebastian disappeared, you have to understand what Sebastian did, what he reported, and what that report set in motion. Sebastian Rogers told someone at school that his stepfather, Chris Proudfoot, had hit him with a belt. That disclosure triggered a Child Protective Services investigation. And in that moment, Sebastian became more than just a teenager living in that home. He became a witness, a reporter, the catalyst for legal scrutiny that could unravel everything Chris was trying to build. But here's where the story gets murky, because Chris Proudfoot can't seem to keep his timeline straight. In early interviews, Chris admits the belt incident happened. He doesn't deny it, but he frames it as ancient history, something that occurred years ago, a one-time disciplinary action that was blown out of proportion. He downplays it, minimizes it, suggests it's not relevant to Sebastian's disappearance. In one interview, he specifically says the incident happened about 3 years ago. He's confident, dismissive, even, as if the passage of time makes it irrelevant. But then, Nancy Grace got involved. During her interview with Chris, she pressed him on the timeline. And that's when the story fell apart, because Chris, in his own words, revealed that Sebastian was 15 years old when the belt incident occurred, and Sebastian had only turned 15 inches, December of 2023. Do the math. If Sebastian was 15 when it happened, and he turned 15 inches December, then the incident couldn't have occurred 3 years ago. It happened between December 2023 and late January 2024, just weeks before Sebastian disappeared. Not 3 years. Weeks. That's not a minor memory lapse. That's a deliberate attempt to distance himself from a recent, legally significant event, and when confronted with his own contradiction, Chris couldn't explain it away. The timeline compression matters. It places an active CPS investigation directly before Sebastian's disappearance, and in missing child cases, recent CPS involvement is one of the highest risk factors investigators look for. But Chris's contradictions don't stop there. In some interviews, Chris claims that CPS didn't file anything. He says it casually, as if the investigation was a non-event. No paperwork, no follow-up, nothing to worry about. But in another interview, Chris tells a completely different story. He describes the CPS caseworker arriving at the house the same evening Sebastian allegedly made the report. He says the worker was familiar with the family, implying there had been prior contact. He describes the scene in detail. The children were sitting at the dinner table. The caseworker spoke with Sebastian privately, outside. And afterward, she allegedly reassured Chris, telling him everything was fine after hearing his explanation. So which is it? Did CPS not file anything? Or did a caseworker come to the house, interview the children, and conduct an investigation? Both can't be true. If a CPS worker came to the home, spoke to Sebastian, and documented the visit, then something was filed. That's how CPS works. They don't make house calls and leave no record. Every visit, every interview, every allegation is documented. It has to be because those records can be subpoenaed, reviewed by courts, and used in custody proceedings.
There you go. It can be, those records can be subpoenaed, reviewed by courts, and used in custody proceedings. I told y'all, I read it on an update on the FBI web, from the FBI's or TBI's update a while back, where it said the Superior Court judge requested all files on January the 29th. Just a couple days after the last CPS call. It was just 3.5 weeks later that Sebastian disappeared, conveniently 2 weeks prior to Mr. Chris going to court to defend himself for the abuse he gave to Sebastian. If that's not motive, I don't know what is. Katie wanted her marriage to work. She wanted to be the last and wife and the only one to make it all the way through life with him. She's living a life now that she's never dreamed she could ever achieve. Did she make that choice to save her husband? Did she really choose a man over her child? Could she have done that? It's crazy to me to even think that a mother could even consider that as a choice. But then again, most of us mothers wouldn't even allow the abuse to happen in the beginning. So it would have never got that far either. Mr. Chris's alibi has never really been confirmed. Was he there? Was he part of it? Did she do it on her own to prove to him how much she loved him? Something we don't know. It's absolutely crazy that it's even possible. Daniel, thank you so much for the Cash App. I really appreciate that. That is so super sweet. Thank you. But we know he's the one who has fought for like 7 years to gain custody of his daughter after he basically stole her from her own mother, him and his family. He wanted that little girl. His mother wanted that little girl, allegedly. But if Sebastian's abuse was brought out in court and talked about in a court of law, it would have been an open door for Nina to completely cut Chris out of the equation. The ultimate sacrifice. Katie's child for Chris's child. Is that what happened? I hope one day we'll figure this out. I hope one day we'll get the answer to that question.
And that's where this gets critical, because CPS involvement isn't just about whether Chris disciplined Sebastian inappropriately. It's about what that finding could do to Chris's legal standing. At the time of Sebastian's disappearance, Chris was actively fighting for custody of his daughter, Faith. Custody cases hinge on parental fitness. They rely on documented behavior, credibility, and the treatment of all children in the household, not just the one you're fighting for. A validated CPS report confirming that Chris struck a special needs teenager with a belt would be devastating in a custody battle. It would corroborate allegations made by Chris's ex-wife. It would raise questions about his judgment, his temper, and his suitability as a caregiver. It could end his custody case before it even reached a courtroom. And Sebastian was the one who made the report. Let that sink in. Sebastian, a 15-year-old boy with autism, living in a home where he was already vulnerable, trusted someone enough to speak up. He told a teacher, or a counselor, or someone at school what had happened. And that act of courage set off a chain reaction. CPS got involved. An investigation began. And Chris, who was already under pressure from a custody battle, now faced the possibility of documented evidence that could destroy his case. In forensic analysis, this is what's called a pressure vector. It's not proof of guilt. It's a measurable stressor that can influence behavior. And when that stressor is tied directly to a child, when that child's testimony is the thing standing between you and a legal catastrophe, investigators pay very close attention. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. When a child triggers a CPS investigation, and that child suddenly disappears, it's not a coincidence investigators can ignore. It's a pattern they've seen before. Children who report abuse are vulnerable. They're at higher risk. And when the system is slow, when the investigation is still ongoing, when the outcome is uncertain, those children are in danger. Sebastian spoke up, and then he was gone. That timeline, the proximity of the CPS report to his disappearance, is one of the most significant elements of this entire case. It establishes motive pressure. It shows that Sebastian wasn't just a stepchild in the home, he was a legal variable, a threat to Chris's objectives, a voice that could validate everything Chris's ex-wife had been saying about him. And Chris knew it. You can hear it in the way he talks about the CPS investigation, the way he minimizes it, the way he changes the timeline, the way he insists nothing was filed, even as he describes the caseworker's visit in detail. He's not confused. He's managing the narrative. He's trying to control how people perceive the CPS involvement because he knows how damaging it is.
Michelle says motive means an opportunity. Sad, but possibly very true.
But the facts don't lie. The timeline doesn't lie. And Sebastian's voice, the one that spoke up, the one that triggered the investigation, has been silenced. If you're finding this case as disturbing as I am, make sure you're subscribed. We're covering cases like this every week, stories the mainstream media won't touch. Hit that bell so you don't miss the next one. Because Sebastian's story deserves to be heard. And the more people who know the truth, the harder it becomes to hide it. But CPS wasn't the only pressure Chris was facing. There was something else at stake, something that might explain everything. At the center of the Proudfoot household, beneath the surface of daily routines and family dynamics, there was a battle being waged. A legal battle, a custody battle. And it wasn't about Sebastian, it was about Chris Proudfoot's daughter, Faith. Chris was fighting for custody of Faith. And in the world of family court, custody cases are wars of credibility. They're built on documented behavior, character assessments, and the testimony of those who've witnessed how a parent treats their children. Judges don't just look at how you treat the child you're fighting for, they look at how you treat all the children in your care. And that's where Sebastian becomes critical. Because
I agree, Diana. Diana said they should have picked K and C up and the BSs and hold them until they take law enforcement to where Sebastian is, not to be released. That's how I would have done it. But then again, I'm not a cop.
Sebastian wasn't just Chris's stepson. He wasn't just another kid in the house. He was a legal obstacle, a witness whose testimony could validate every allegation Chris's ex-wife had made, a voice that could destroy Chris's entire custody strategy. Let's connect the dots. Chris's ex-wife, Nena, had made serious allegations about Chris's behavior. According to court documents and statements attributed to her, she raised concerns about his temper, his treatment of the children, and the involvement of his extended family in ways she described as aggressive and coercive. Whether those allegations were accurate or exaggerated is almost beside the point. What matters is that they were on the record. They were part of the custody dispute, and Chris needed to discredit them. But then Sebastian went to school and reported that Chris had hit him with a belt. That report triggered a CPS investigation. And if CPS validated Sebastian's claim, if they documented that Chris had used corporal punishment on a special needs teenager, it wouldn't just be a mark against Chris. It would be corroboration. It would give weight to everything Nena had been saying. It would show a pattern, and in custody court, patterns matter. Let's be clear, motive doesn't prove guilt, but it does explain pressure, and pressure explains behavior.
Pressure explains behavior. I don't think this kind of pressure explains Mr. Chris attacking a content creator and basically telling her he hopes she eats the whole damn turkey and chokes on a chicken bone and does her whole family a favor. I don't think her starting a shotgun, helping her family out that way has anything to do with the pressure he was under. I think that was his real personality.
Chris wasn't just facing a CPS investigation. He was facing the collapse of his custody case. Because here's how family court works. If CPS finds that you've engaged in inappropriate discipline, that finding can be introduced as evidence. It can be used to question your judgment, your parenting methods, and your fitness as a caregiver. It can influence visitation rights, custody arrangements, and even supervise access requirements. A validated CPS report doesn't just complicate a custody case, it can end it. And
there you go. It doesn't just complicate a custody case. It can end it. And Chris knew that, in my opinion.
Sebastian was the one who made the report. Sebastian was the linchpin. His testimony was the thing that could tip the scales. If he stood by his statement, if CPS believed him, if the investigation moved forward, Chris's chances of gaining custody of Faith would plummet. So what happens when a child becomes a legal obstacle? When their voice threatens to unravel everything you've been fighting for? In most cases, nothing. Most parents, even under pressure, would never harm a child. They'd work within the system. They'd cooperate with CPS. They'd adjust their behavior and move forward. But this isn't most cases, because according to community sources and statements attributed to Nena, Chris's family, particularly his mother and stepfather, were deeply invested in the custody battle. Some accounts describe them as aggressively involved.
Aggressively involved. Not just the mother. Let's add the sisters in there as well. But yeah, aggressively is a good word to use. Especially when they tell him to back the car up and run over the mother after the judge gave her custody. It's pretty aggressive, wouldn't you say?
Allegedly making threats, engaging in coercive behavior, and treating Nena's children with hostility. These characterizations are unverified, and we have to be careful not to treat them as fact. But their existence within the narrative provides context. If Chris's extended family saw the custody of Faith as a central mission, if they viewed Sebastian's CPS report as a threat to that mission, then Sebastian's role in the household changes. He's no longer just a stepchild. He's an impediment.
It changed everything, guys, I'm telling you. Sebastian speaking out every time. He got tired of it. He found his courage. He found his strength. He finally told someone what was happening to him in that house. And don't forget, it wasn't just about Chris, his mother as well. I believe, and I may be wrong on this, but I do believe the worst of it was done by Mr. Chris. And therefore the case was against him. But don't forget his wife sitting there right beside him. She knew it was happening. She knew it happened and stayed with him and possibly made that ultimate choice.
Problem, a variable that needs to be managed. And when you combine that perception with the timeline, the fact that Sebastian disappeared just weeks after making the CPS report, just as the investigation was ongoing, just as the custody hearing was approaching, the pressure chain becomes undeniable. Here's the sequence. Sebastian reports the belt incident. CPS opens an investigation. Chris's custody case is suddenly at risk. The stakes are enormous, not just for Chris, but for his entire family, who are allegedly invested in the outcome. Sebastian's testimony becomes the deciding factor. And then, before CPS can complete their investigation, before Sebastian can be interviewed again, before the custody hearing can proceed, Sebastian disappears. That's not a random sequence of events. That's a motive chain. Now, does that prove Chris or his family harmed Sebastian? No. Motive alone doesn't prove action. But it does establish the framework within which behavior must be analyzed. It shows that Sebastian's presence, his voice, his testimony, these things, had consequences. Legal consequences. Consequences that could cost Chris everything he was fighting for. And in forensic analysis, when a child who poses a legal threat to a caregiver suddenly vanishes, investigators don't treat it as coincidence. They treat it as a priority vector. They examine the pressures, they map the incentives. They ask, who benefits from this child's silence? In this case, the answer is clear. Chris benefits. His custody case benefits. His family's objectives benefit. Sebastian's disappearance removes the primary witness in the CPS investigation. It halts the documentation process. It prevents further interviews. And it creates a narrative shift. Suddenly, Chris isn't the parent under investigation. He's the grieving stepfather of a missing child. The optics change, the focus changes, and the legal pressure, it evaporates. That's not speculation. That's the reality of what happens when a key witness in a CPS case disappears. But let's zoom out for a moment, because this isn't just about Chris. It's about a system that failed Sebastian, a system that knew he was at risk, that had opened an investigation, that had documented concerns, and then didn't act fast enough. CPS investigations take time. They require interviews, home visits, documentation, and review. And during that time, the child who made the report is still living in the same home, with the same caregivers, under the same pressures. Sebastian was vulnerable. He had spoken up. He had triggered scrutiny. And he was still in that house, waiting for the system to protect him. But the system didn't move fast enough. And now Sebastian is gone. The custody motive doesn't exist in isolation. It intersects with the CPS investigation, the timeline inconsistencies, the behavioral red flags, and the Alaska departure. Each vector reinforces the others. Each piece of the puzzle fits into a larger picture. And that picture shows a household under immense pressure, a stepfather facing legal consequences, a family allegedly invested in a custody outcome, and a child whose testimony threatened to destroy it all. Sebastian wasn't just a missing person, he was a legal variable. And in the cold calculus of custody battles and CPS investigations, variables get eliminated. So we have a broken timeline, a suspicious departure, legal pressure, and a motive. But what about the evidence? What do the physical clues tell us? From the moment Sebastian Rogers was reported missing, the official narrative was simple. He walked away. A 5-year-old boy, for reasons unknown, left his home in the middle of the night and vanished into the Tennessee wilderness. It's a theory that sounds plausible at first. Teenagers run away. Kids with autism sometimes wander. It happens. But here's the problem. Every single piece of physical evidence contradicts that theory. Not some of the evidence, not most of the evidence, all of it.
All of the evidence contradict everything Katie and Chris have said from day one. Every bit of it. Everything that they have said has been proven by the lack of evidence.
Let's start with the most damning piece, the scent trail, or rather, the complete absence of one. When a person leaves a location on foot, they leave behind microscopic skin cells, oils, and biological markers. Trained K9 units can detect these markers even hours or days later. In missing person cases, scent tracking dogs are often the first tool deployed because they can tell investigators which direction the person went, where they paused, and where the trail ends. In Sebastian's case, K9 units were brought in immediately. Multiple teams, experienced handlers, dogs trained specifically for tracking missing persons, and they found nothing. No scent trail leading away from the house, no directional indication, no hit at the doorway, the driveway, the yard, or along any nearby roads. The dogs tracked Sebastian's scent inside the home to his bedroom, to specific areas where he spent time, but they could not establish any path leading outside. That's not normal. Even in cases where scent has degraded due to weather or time, dogs typically pick up something.
We've already looked, months back, and a dog, their accuracy rate is up in the 90%, high 90s for their accuracy in their scent. The dog picked him up inside the home, but there was absolutely nothing with him leaving the home.
Partial trail, a directional hint, a point of exit. Here, nothing. Now, Chris Proudfoot has claimed in interviews that the dogs did hit outside the house. He's presented this as proof that Sebastian walked out on his own, but that claim is contradicted by law enforcement statements and search documentation. The agencies involved in the search, local police, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and volunteer K9 groups, reported the opposite. No reliable exterior scent trail was found, so either Chris is mistaken or he's misrepresenting the facts. Either way, the evidence doesn't support his version of events. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that the scent trail was somehow compromised. Maybe it rained. Maybe the conditions weren't ideal. Let's move on to the next piece of evidence, Sebastian's shoes. Early reports indicated that all of Sebastian's shoes were found inside the home. When pressed on this detail in later interviews, Katie Proudfoot became evasive. She wouldn't specify how many pairs Sebastian owned or whether any were actually missing. She deflected. She avoided giving a clear answer. That evasiveness is telling, because in most missing person cases, the shoe inventory is straightforward. Parents know exactly how many pairs their child has, what they look like, and whether any are missing. It's one of the first things investigators ask, and it's one of the easiest questions to answer, unless the answer is incriminating. If all of Sebastian's shoes were inside the house, then he left barefoot, and that creates a massive problem for the walkaway theory. Sebastian was on the autism spectrum. Many individuals with ASD have sensory sensitivities, particularly related to touch, temperature, and texture. Walking barefoot on cold, uneven terrain, especially at night, would be extremely uncomfortable, even painful, for someone with those sensitivities.
I honestly believe the shoes were a forgotten part of whatever happened. I think that was an uh-oh moment when the shoes by the front door were discovered. They did not realize they should have put the shoes on him, but they needed the clothes to be in the house to prove he was home. So they even put his shoes there. But his father came in and realized he only had a few pairs of shoes and they were all accounted for.
There's no evidence that Sebastian had a history of walking around barefoot, no indication that he avoided wearing shoes, no pattern of behavior that would explain why he'd suddenly leave the house without them in the middle of a cold February night. And if he did leave barefoot, where are the footprints? The terrain around the Proudfoot home includes dirt, mud, grass, and wooded areas. A barefoot teenager walking across that terrain should leave visible impressions, footprints in soft soil, disturbances in vegetation, skin cells on rough surfaces. Trained search teams know how to identify these markers. They look for plant compression, soil displacement, and biological trace evidence. They found none of it. No footprints, no disturbances, no indication that anyone had recently walked through the area surrounding the home. Even in cases where footprints are faint or degraded, experienced searchers can usually detect something.
SI officer says, but supposedly a pair was purchased at BJ's. Allegedly. So did she purchase a pair of shoes that day at BJ so that he would have something to wear when he was not home anymore?
A partial print, a scuff mark, a pattern of disturbed ground. Here, nothing. Then there's the camera footage, or rather, the lack of it. Neighboring homes and businesses in the area had security cameras. Law enforcement reviewed that footage, both voluntarily provided and obtained through requests. They were looking for any sign of Sebastian walking down a road, cutting through a yard, moving through the neighborhood. They found nothing. No sightings, no visual confirmation, no evidence that Sebastian was anywhere near the surrounding streets or properties. Now, the absence of camera footage doesn't prove Sebastian didn't leave, but combined with the absence of a scent trail, the absence of footprints, and the absence of shoes, it becomes part of a larger pattern, a pattern of nothing. Let's talk about dropped items. In cases involving individuals with autism, particularly those who wander or elope, it's statistically common for them to drop personal belongings along the way. Comfort objects, sensory tools, electronic devices, clothing. These items are often found within the first 50 to 100 yards, dropped due to sensory overload, disorientation, or distraction. Sebastian was known to rely on his phone and sensory regulation devices, but none of those items were missing. His phone was found inside the home. No personal belongings were discovered along roads, in wooded areas, or anywhere in the search radius. No dropped items, no trail of belongings, no accidental markers left behind. And here's the kicker. Sebastian had no history of wandering. Elopement, the term used to describe when individuals with autism leave a safe environment without supervision, is more common in younger children. By the teenage years, especially in individuals with stable routines like Sebastian, the behavior is far less frequent. There's no documented history of Sebastian running away, no prior incidents of him leaving the house at night, no pattern of impulsive outdoor behavior. So the walkaway theory requires us to believe that Sebastian, with no history of elopement, suddenly decided to leave his home in the middle of the night, without shoes, without his phone, without any of his comfort items, and managed to do so without leaving a scent trail, without leaving footprints, without being seen on any cameras, and without dropping a single personal belonging. Does that sound plausible to you?
Nope. Sure does not. Does not sound plausible. Not at all. None of it sounds plausible. Especially when most of it has already been debunked over and over and over again, especially when they contradict their own selves. Nothing in this case seems plausible. Me and you're good. We're just going to try to get everybody to use initials instead of saying names. We don't want people to be able to attack and stuff. It's just crazy that we even have to ask that. But you're good, darling. You're good.
What's the weather like where you are right now? I'm curious, drop it in the comments. Because here's what the evidence actually tells us. Sebastian didn't walk away. Every indicator that should be present in a voluntary or involuntary departure is absent. The scent trail, the footprints, the shoes, the camera footage, the dropped items, the behavioral history. None of it exists. And when every exit indicator is absent, investigators are left with one conclusion. The person didn't exit on their own. In forensic terms, this is called evidence-based elimination. You rule out scenarios that are incompatible with the physical evidence. And in this case, the walk-away scenario is incompatible with all of the physical evidence. So if Sebastian didn't walk away, how did he leave the house? That's the question investigators have to ask. And it's a question that shifts the focus inward, back to the people who were inside the home that night. Back to the people who controlled Sebastian's environment. Back to the people whose timeline doesn't add up. The walk-away theory isn't just weak. It's forensically impossible. And when the official narrative collapses under the weight of evidence, what you're left with is the truth. A truth that's uncomfortable. A truth that's disturbing, but a truth that the evidence supports. Sebastian didn't leave that house on his own. The evidence tells us what didn't happen. But there's more. The way Chris and Katie behaved during interviews reveals something investigators couldn't ignore. When a child goes missing, investigators don't just analyze physical evidence. They analyze behavior. Specifically, the behavior of the people closest to the victim. Because behavior, body language, speech patterns, emotional responses can reveal what words try to hide. In the case of Chris and Katie Proudfoot, their behavior during interviews raises serious questions. Not because of one isolated moment, but because of a consistent pattern that doesn't align with what investigators typically see in parents of missing children. Let's start with Katie. In her early interview with WSMV, Katie displays visible distress. She rocks back and forth, a rhythmic, repetitive motion that's consistent with acute anxiety and emotional dysregulation. Rocking is a self-soothing behavior. It's what people do when they're overwhelmed, when their nervous system is in overdrive, when they're struggling to maintain control. It looks genuine. It looks like a mother in crisis. But then, in her interview with Nancy Grace, recorded shortly afterward, that behavior disappears entirely. Katie is completely still. No rocking, no repetitive movement. Her facial expressions are controlled. Her body language is measured. That kind of abrupt shift is unusual. People under genuine, sustained distress don't typically oscillate between high movement anxiety and complete stillness. Their stress responses tend to be consistent across interviews, even if the wording changes. The body doesn't lie as easily as the mouth does. But when someone is managing their presentation, when they're conscious of how they appear, they might overcompensate.
Maybe like Katie did when she was talking in the Olivia video, saying that, and she went to the school and she kind of did her hand across her neck in the gesture of slit kind of thing. Then he coughs, and then she starts tapping on the table, giving herself time to get back on track with the whole story, the script.
Might display exaggerated emotion in one setting and then suppress it entirely in another, trying to find the right way to look. Behavioral analysts call this emotional modulation, and it's a red flag. Now let's talk about Chris. Throughout multiple interviews, Chris displays something that makes investigators uncomfortable: inappropriate affect. He smiles, he laughs, not in moments of relief or nostalgia, but in moments where no contextual trigger exists. He's talking about his missing stepson, about search efforts, about the investigation, and he's smiling. In forensic behavioral analysis, inappropriate smiling isn't treated as evidence of guilt, but it is treated as a signal of internal dissonance, a mismatch between the gravity of the situation and the emotional cues being displayed.
Emotional cues being displayed. Remember in that same video with Olivia, she asked, how did it feel? What were your feelings that morning when you realized your son was missing? Olivia had more emotions than Katie, because Katie replies, holy freaking crap, my son is gone. A few blah, 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 a few choice words were used. Very, very monotoned.
It often appears when someone is trying to maintain control over their narrative while managing internal anxiety. It's not that Chris is happy, it's that he's uncomfortable, and that discomfort is leaking through in ways he can't fully control. Beyond the smiling, Chris engages in frequent topic redirection. When interviewers ask him direct questions about the timeline, about CPS, about his activities that night, he doesn't answer them. Instead, he pivots. He talks about how cooperative he's been. He emphasizes how much he respects law enforcement. He reframes the question into something easier to answer. This is a classic deflection technique. It's what people do when they don't want to address the substance of a question. They answer a different question, one that makes them look better. And then there's the way Chris controls Katie's responses. In multiple interviews, Katie begins to answer a question, hesitates, glances at Chris, and then stops. Chris steps in. He answers for her. He reframes what she was about to say. He dominates the narrative. This dynamic is significant. When two people are jointly recounting events, discrepancies between their versions can emerge. A controlling communicator may attempt to prevent those discrepancies by managing the flow of information, by speaking for the other person, by interrupting, by steering the conversation. In several interviews, you can see Katie defer to Chris. She looks to him for approval before speaking.
That part just really stands out to me. You can see how Katie defers to Chris. She looks to him for approval for speaking. Remember how we were told that Katie got called in for an interview with law enforcement? She didn't like the way the questions were going, so she called her husband. She didn't tell them, I want a lawyer, and stop the interview. She called her husband, Chris, who she looked to for approval. She didn't have him there. One of the comments in yesterday's video said something about Katie not being able to speak without Chris, but yet there was that one interview she did on her own at the 1-year anniversary And it's been a well-known fact that her lawyer was sitting right there with her and had already had the list of questions that was going to be asked. And yet she still screwed it up by saying he would have, instead of he turned 16. She still messed it up.
She lets him take over, and when she does speak, her answers often align suspiciously well with his. That's not how genuine recollection works. That's how rehearsed testimony works. And speaking of rehearsal, let's talk about Chris's repeated use of specific phrases. In multiple interviews, Chris describes himself using the exact same 3 words: brash, respectful, direct. He uses this sequence over and over, often inserting it into contexts where it's not responsive to the question being asked. That kind of repetition suggests scripting. It's a phrase.
Wait, what? Scripting? That kind of repetition suggests scripting. Guys, I've said it all along. It's as if they had a script ready to go. They had it memorized. They've been playing out a script this whole entire time. In my opinion, of course.
He's rehearsed, a self-characterization he's decided to project. It's impression management, an attempt to control how people perceive him. Innocent people don't usually spend time crafting a personal brand during a missing child investigation. They're too focused on finding their child. But people who are concerned about how they're being perceived, they script, they rehearse, they repeat. Then there's the eye contact, or rather, the lack of it. Across interviews, both Chris and Katie show patterns of gaze aversion. They look down when discussing critical details. They avoid looking at each other. And when they do make eye contact, it's often followed by a hesitation, a correction, or a shift in narrative direction. Behavioral experts note that people telling the truth often rely on mutual gaze for reassurance or corroboration. They look at each other to confirm details, to draw strength, to stay aligned. But people recalling fabricated or altered events often avoid eye contact because looking at each other can expose discrepancies. It can reveal doubt. It can break the performance. In the Proudfoot interviews, mutual eye contact is rare, and when it does occur, it's almost always followed by a narrative adjustment. And then there's the phrase that keeps coming up: put the dogs up. Chris and Katie use this phrase repeatedly when describing their nighttime routine. It's presented as a normal part of securing the house before bed, but here's the problem. The phrase doesn't align with the home's described layout. According to their own statements, Sebastian would have passed by the dogs to reach the kitchen. That implies the dogs were in a common area along his normal route. But when asked about the nighttime routine, Katie describes putting the dogs up in a way that suggests they were moved to a separate location. So where were the dogs? And why does the phrasing feel rehearsed rather than descriptive? When a repeated phrase doesn't align with physical logistics, investigators consider whether it's functioning as a scripted line, a placeholder that sounds normal but doesn't actually clarify what happened. Here's what behavioral analysts look for in interviews with parents of missing children: uncontrolled emotional leakage, fragmented sentences, spontaneous recall, unpredictable reactions. Genuine distress doesn't follow a script. It's messy, it's inconsistent, it's raw. But the Proudfoot interviews contain structured patterns: controlled movement, redirected questioning, rehearsed phrasing, coordinated narrative alignment. That's not the behavior of parents focused solely on finding their child.
Almost exactly what Deception Detective and all the other experts in behavior analysis has told us. Pat Brown herself has said those same things.
That's the behavior of people focused on managing how they're perceived. And here's the thing: people under intense scrutiny sometimes do try to present themselves in a composed, logical manner, especially if they feel unfairly judged. So these behaviors don't automatically indicate guilt, but they do indicate something: awareness. Awareness that they're being watched, awareness that their words matter, awareness that inconsistencies could be damaging. And that awareness, combined with the timeline contradictions, the CPS pressure, the custody motive, and the absence of physical evidence supporting the walkaway theory, it all adds up. Individually, these behaviors might mean nothing, but together, they form a pattern of control, a pattern of deflection, a pattern of performance. And in a case where a child has vanished without a trace, where the timeline doesn't hold, where the physical evidence points inward, behavioral red flags become part of the investigative framework. They don't prove what happened to Sebastian, but they reveal who's trying to control the story and why. In missing person investigations, transparency is critical. Investigators need complete information: medical history, behavioral patterns, daily routines, medications, relationships, conflicts. Every detail matters, and parents of missing children, desperate to find their child, typically provide that information freely.
They usually offer that information freely. Innocent parents, parents who have a child missing and absolutely know nothing about it, go out of their way to give every detail of everything. They want them to know all the things because it might help find their child. They're not going to be inconsistent because they're telling the truth. And the truth never changes. And therefore, it's easy to say, Katie and Chris have not told us the truth.
Share. They volunteer details. They want investigators to have every possible tool. But Chris Proudfoot did the opposite. Throughout the investigation, Chris engaged in a pattern of information withholding and narrative control. He didn't just avoid certain topics, he actively managed what information was released, how it was framed, and who had access to it. Let's start with Sebastian's medication. Sebastian was on medication. That's been confirmed. But the specifics, what medication, what dosage, what it was prescribed for, have never been publicly disclosed. And when asked about it in interviews, Chris deflects. Why does this matter? Because medication details are critical in missing person cases. If Sebastian was on medication for a behavioral condition, for anxiety, for sleep regulation, that information helps search teams understand his likely state of mind, his physical capabilities, and his decision-making patterns. It helps medical professionals assess survival timelines. It helps the public recognize symptoms if he's spotted. Withholding that information doesn't protect Sebastian. It hinders the search.
Just like the pictures. We were all thinking how young Sebastian looked, how he acted. All those young pictures was a distraction so that nobody was actually looking for the 15-year-old boy that was sitting at Texas Roadhouse with his mother that night, well-mannered, walking straight up and proper. Same thing with the medication. Don't tell us all the details because, we don't need to be looking for someone that might have withdrawals from some of this medication. Go look for that young Sebastian.
And yet, Chris has consistently refused to provide clarity. He frames it as protecting Sebastian's privacy. But Sebastian is missing. Privacy concerns don't outweigh the need for actionable information in a search effort. Unless the medication details reveal something Chris doesn't want public, something that contradicts the narrative, something that raises questions about what was happening in that household. Then there's the vehicle issue. Multiple community members and online researchers have asked whether the vehicles in the Proudfoot household were searched, specifically whether they were forensically examined before Chris's parents allegedly left for Alaska. It's a reasonable question. In missing child cases, household vehicles are routinely inspected. Cadaver dogs are brought in. Forensic teams check for biological evidence, hair, fibers, fluids. It's standard procedure. But when asked about vehicle searches, Chris becomes evasive. He says law enforcement has done everything they need to do. He insists he's been fully cooperative, but he won't directly confirm whether the vehicles were searched, when they were searched, or what the results were. That's not transparency. That's deflection. If the vehicles were searched and cleared, why not just say so? Why leave the question hanging? The only reason to avoid a direct answer is if the answer is problematic, or if no search occurred at all. And then
SI says the video we see of the family in Strike and Spare was from 12/23, not that weekend, all wearing those clothing from 12/23. Did they really have on the same clothes? That's wild. Guys, if you don't mind, take a minute and hit that thumbs up for me. I appreciate it. If y'all'd like to become a member, the iPhone link is pinned above the chat. We would love to have y'all. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. We're going to listen to just a little bit more.
there's Chris's repeated claims of cooperation. In nearly every interview, Chris emphasizes how cooperative he's been with law enforcement. He says it unprompted. He says it defensively. He says it as if repetition will make it true. We've cooperated fully. We've given them everything they've asked for. We've done everything law enforcement has requested. But cooperation isn't something you have to advertise. If you're genuinely cooperating, investigators confirm it. The evidence speaks for itself. You don't need to repeatedly assert it in interviews. When someone constantly emphasizes their cooperation, it often signals the opposite, an awareness that their behavior is being scrutinized, and an attempt to preemptively defend against accusations of obstruction. And
Oh, they actively defend a lot, don't they? Anna says, in my opinion, when it comes to the shoes, I believe Katie was given those shoes back that morning. That's why Miss Bowersox was there that morning at Worsham's. Very, very possible. Very possible. Scranton says, Lolly, it makes me wonder how many times they tried and didn't work for him to disappear. I'm telling you, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? Can you just imagine what that young man had to live through? What it took for him just to gain that strength to tell somebody. Bless his heart.
here's the thing. Chris's claims of cooperation don't align with his other behaviors. He withholds medication details. He deflects questions about vehicle searches. He changes his story about CPS. He lies about taking a polygraph. That's not cooperation. That's selective disclosure. It's providing just enough information to appear helpful while withholding the details that matter most. Let's revisit the contradictions. Chris says the CPS incident happened 3 years ago. Then he admits it happened when Sebastian was 15, which means it was recent. Chris says he took a polygraph and passed. Then he admits he never took one. Chris says CPS didn't file anything. Then he describes the CPS worker coming to the house and interviewing the children. Katie says she heard the thud at 10 p.m. Then she says it was 1 a.m. Then she says Sebastian responded verbally. Then she doesn't mention a response at all. These aren't minor inconsistencies. These are foundational, same purpose. To obscure the truth. When you can't keep your story straight, you create confusion. And confusion buys time. It muddies the investigative waters. It makes it harder for people to pin down what actually happened. But here's the thing. Innocent people don't usually need to control the narrative. They just tell the truth.
Boom. Innocent people don't usually need to control the narrative. They just tell the truth. That's huge. It's exactly what we've been saying this whole entire time. When the stories started changing, when nothing started matching up, when all the questions started happening because things didn't add up correctly, we realized they weren't telling us the truth.
They don't rehearse phrases. They don't deflect questions. They don't withhold critical information. They don't change their timeline. They don't lie about polygraphs. They tell investigators everything they know, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it makes them look bad. Because finding their child is more important than managing their image. Chris Proudfoot has done the opposite. He's managed his image at every turn. He's controlled the flow of information. He's deflected, contradicted, and withheld. And that behavior, combined with everything else we've examined, paints a picture of someone who isn't focused on finding Sebastian. He's focused on protecting himself. Narrative control is a defensive strategy. It's what people do when they know the truth is damaging, when they know that full transparency will expose them, when they know that the story, if told honestly, will lead investigators straight to them. And in this case, every act of withholding, every deflection, every contradiction, it all points in the same direction. Inward, back to the Proudfoot household, back to the people who were there that night, back to the people whose timeline doesn't hold, back to the people who had motive, opportunity, and something to hide. I want to hear from you. Have you ever followed a case where the family's behavior just didn't sit right? Tell me in the comments. Sometimes our instincts pick up on things before the evidence does. And in this case, the instincts and the evidence are telling the same story. So where does all of this lead us? In forensic investigations, there's a principle called convergence of evidence. It's the idea that when multiple independent lines of inquiry all point in the same direction, the probability of accuracy increases exponentially. One piece of evidence can be questioned, two can be coincidence. But when 7, 8, 9 separate vectors all converge on the same conclusion, that's when investigators know they're looking at the truth. In the case of Sebastian Rogers, we have exactly that. Convergence. Let's map it out. Vector 1. The collapsed timeline. Chris and Katie Proudfoot cannot maintain a consistent account of the hours surrounding Sebastian's disappearance. The thud happens at 10 p.m., then 1 a.m. Sebastian responds verbally, then he doesn't. Katie is reading, on the phone, asleep on the couch all at the same time, apparently. Chris claims he took a polygraph, then admits he didn't. The timeline doesn't just have gaps, it has contradictions that are forensically impossible to reconcile. When caregivers can't keep their story straight about the last known hours of a missing child's life, investigators don't treat it as stress-induced confusion. They treat it as a red flag. Because the truth doesn't change. Only lies do. Vector 2. The Alaska departure. Within days of Sebastian's disappearance, Chris's parents allegedly drove over 4,000 miles to Alaska. Not flew, drove. They left during the critical early phase of the investigation, when most families stay close, when search efforts are at their peak, when every available person is needed. The timing is suspicious. The method is suspicious. The destination remote, difficult to investigate, with minimal border scrutiny is suspicious. And the question of whether their vehicle was forensically examined before they left remains unanswered. Sudden long-distance travel by individuals connected to a missing child's household is a known displacement behavior. It creates physical distance. It removes potential evidence from the jurisdiction, and it signals awareness that staying close might be problematic. Vector 3. CPS pressure. Sebastian reported that Chris hit him with a belt. That report triggered a CPS investigation, and despite Chris's attempts to frame it as ancient history, the timeline proves it was recent weeks before Sebastian disappeared. An active CPS investigation isn't just bureaucratic paperwork. It's a legal threat. It's documentation that can be used in court. It's evidence that validates allegations. And in this case, it was evidence that could destroy Chris's custody case. Sebastian wasn't just a child in that home. He was a witness, a reporter, a legal obstacle, and his voice was the thing standing between Chris and everything he was fighting for. Vector 4. Custody motive. Chris was fighting for custody of his daughter, Faith. A validated CPS report about his treatment of Sebastian would have been devastating to that case. It would have corroborated his ex-wife's allegations. It would have shown a pattern of inappropriate discipline. It would have ended his chances.
I honestly believe that's the key right there. The CPS reports, the case pending with CPS against Mr. Chris. He fought 7 years for that child to gain full custody. 7 years is a long time to fight for custody of that child. And this, the abuse with Sebastian, that would have destroyed everything. In 2 weeks prior to that CPS court case, Sebastian went missing. 2 weeks. That's how close Mr. Chris was to losing everything he had been fighting for.
Sebastian's testimony was the linchpin. If he stood by his report, if CPS believed him, if the investigation moved forward, Chris's custody battle was over. That's not speculation. That's how family court works, and it establishes a clear, measurable motive for wanting Sebastian's voice silenced. Vector 5. Physical evidence rejects the walk-away theory. No scent trail, no footprints, no shoes, no camera footage, no dropped items, no behavioral history of wandering. Every single indicator that should be present in a voluntary or involuntary departure is absent. The physical evidence doesn't just fail to support the walk-away theory, it actively contradicts it. When K9 units can't establish an exit path, when all of a child's shoes are inside the home, when no trace evidence exists outside the residence, the forensic conclusion is clear. The person didn't leave on foot. And if Sebastian didn't walk away, then how did he leave? And who moved him? Vector 6. Behavioral indicators. Katie's shifting demeanor, Chris's inappropriate smiling, rehearsed phrases, controlled responses, eye contact avoidance, deflection, topic redirection. These aren't isolated quirks, they're patterns. Patterns that behavioral analysts recognize as indicators of managed performance rather than genuine distress. People telling the truth don't need to rehearse, they don't need to control the narrative, they don't need to answer for each other, they just tell what happened. But people hiding the truth, they script, they deflect, they manage. And that's exactly what we see in the Proudfoot interviews. Vector 7. Narrative control and information withholding. Chris withholds Sebastian's medication details. He deflects questions about vehicle searches. He contradicts himself about CPS, polygraphs, and timelines. He emphasizes cooperation while simultaneously refusing to provide clarity on critical details. That's not the behavior of someone focused on finding a missing child. That's the behavior of someone focused on protecting themselves. Innocent people don't withhold information that could help a search effort. They don't deflect. They don't manage the narrative. They tell the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, because finding their child is the only thing that matters. But Chris has done the opposite at every turn. So here's what we have. 7 independent lines of evidence. 7 separate vectors. And every single one of them points in the same direction. Inward. Not toward the woods. Not toward a random abduction. Not toward a voluntary disappearance. Toward the Proudfoot household. Toward the people who were there that night. Toward the people whose timeline doesn't hold. Toward the people who had motive, opportunity, and something to hide. In forensic terms, when external explanations fail, when the physical evidence, the behavioral indicators, the timeline, and the motive all reject the official narrative, internal causation becomes the focus. The question is no longer, where did Sebastian go? It's, what happened inside the Proudfoot home? Because the evidence doesn't support the idea that Sebastian left on his own. It doesn't support the idea that he wandered into the woods. It doesn't support the idea that a stranger took him. What it does support is that something happened inside that house. Something that Chris and Katie can't talk about honestly. Something that required a fractured timeline, a controlled narrative, and the removal of a child whose voice had become too dangerous. And here's the part that breaks my heart. Sebastian deserved safety. He deserved to be heard. He deserved to come home. He spoke up. He trusted someone enough to report what was happening to him. He did exactly what we tell children to do. He told the truth, and then he was gone. That's not a coincidence. That's not bad luck. That's a consequence. Sebastian's voice was a threat, and threats, in households under pressure, get eliminated. The convergence of evidence doesn't just suggest what happened, it maps it. It shows the pressure points, the motive chain, the behavioral indicators, and the physical impossibilities. And all of it, every single piece, points to the same conclusion. Sebastian Rogers didn't leave that house on his own, and the people who know what happened to him are the same people who can't keep their story straight. As of today, Sebastian Rogers has been missing for months, and despite the massive search efforts, despite the thousands of hours invested by law enforcement, despite the tireless work of volunteers and community members, there have been no arrests. The investigation remains open, active, ongoing. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation continues to classify this as a missing person case. The FBI remains involved. Local law enforcement in Sumner County is still following leads, reviewing evidence, and conducting interviews. But publicly, there's been silence. No major updates, no press conferences announcing breakthroughs, no named suspects, no charges filed. And that silence is frustrating. It's agonizing for those who followed this case, for those who see the same patterns investigators see, for those who believe the evidence speaks clearly. But here's what we need to understand. The absence of arrests doesn't mean the absence of progress. Investigations of this magnitude, cases involving missing children, potential foul play, and complex family dynamics take time. Investigators don't just need suspicion. They need evidence that meets the standard for prosecution. They need forensic confirmation. They need witness testimony. They need a case that can withstand the scrutiny of a courtroom. And building that case, especially when the primary suspects are the people who controlled the victim's environment, requires meticulous work. Investigators are likely examining digital evidence, phone records, text messages, social media activity, search histories. They're reviewing financial transactions. They're conducting forensic analysis on vehicles, on the home, on any physical evidence collected during the initial search. They're re-interviewing witnesses. They're looking for inconsistencies. They're building a timeline that can't be disputed. And they're waiting for someone to talk, waiting for a crack in the narrative, waiting for the pressure to become unbearable. Because in cases like this, the truth often emerges not from a single piece of evidence, but from the slow, relentless accumulation of pressure. People make mistakes. They contradict themselves. They confide in the wrong person. They break. And when they do, investigators are ready. But while law enforcement works behind the scenes, the public has a role to play. And that role is critical. Community pressure matters. Public awareness matters. When a case stays in the spotlight, when people continue to ask questions, when the story doesn't fade into obscurity, it keeps the pressure on. It reminds investigators that people are watching. It reminds potential witnesses that their information could be the key. And it reminds those who know what happened that the truth will not stay buried forever. In Sebastian's case, the community has been relentless. Local residents have organized searches. They've distributed flyers. They've kept his name alive on social media. They've refused to let this case disappear. And that matters more than you might think. Because when cases go cold, it's often not because the evidence isn't there, it's because public attention fades. Media moves on. People stop talking. And in that silence, those responsible breathe easier. But Sebastian's case hasn't gone silent. And it can't. Not when the evidence is this clear. Not when the contradictions are this glaring. Not when a child's life is at stake. There are people out there who know more than they've said. Maybe they're family members who've heard things they weren't supposed to hear. Maybe they're friends who were confided in. Maybe they're neighbors who saw something that didn't sit right but didn't want to get involved. And to those people, I want to say this. Your silence protects the wrong people. If you know anything about what happened to Sebastian Rogers, don't stay silent. You don't have to post publicly. You don't have to put your name out there. But you can contact law enforcement. You can submit an anonymous tip. You can reach out to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, to the FBI, to local authorities. You can comment below. You can share this video. You can make sure Sebastian's story reaches someone who has the missing piece. Because here's the truth, Sebastian's voice was silenced. But ours don't have to be. Every share, every comment, every conversation about this case is an act of resistance against the silence that allows injustice to thrive. It's a refusal to let Sebastian be forgotten. It's a demand for accountability, and it works. Public pressure has solved cases before. It's brought justice to victims who were written off. It's forced re-investigations. It's led to arrests, to confessions, to convictions. Sebastian deserves that. He deserves a community that won't stop asking questions. He deserves a public that won't let his case fade. He deserves justice. So if you've watched this far, if this case has affected you, if you believe like I do that the evidence points to a truth that hasn't been fully acknowledged yet, then do something. Share this video. Talk about Sebastian. Keep his name in circulation. Keep the pressure on. Because the people who know what happened are counting on this case going away. They're counting on people losing interest. They're counting on the noise dying down. Don't let that happen. Sebastian Rogers was a real person. A 5-year-old boy with hopes, with struggles, with a voice that mattered. He spoke up when it was hard. He trusted the system to protect him, and the system failed him. But we don't have to. We can keep his story alive. We can demand answers. We can refuse to let those responsible hide behind silence and deflection. The investigation is ongoing, and so is our responsibility to Sebastian. Don't stay silent. Don't look away. Don't let this case become another unsolved tragedy. Sebastian's voice was silenced. Let's make sure his story isn't. We started this investigation with a question that challenges the official narrative, a question that the evidence demands we ask. What if Sebastian Rogers never left home? What if the answer to his disappearance isn't in the woods, isn't in some random abduction, isn't in a voluntary walkaway scenario that defies every piece of physical evidence? What if the answer has been there all along, inside the walls of the Proudfoot household, hidden behind a fractured timeline, buried beneath rehearsed statements and narrative control? The evidence doesn't lie. The K9 units found no scent trail leading away from the home. Sebastian's shoes were inside. No footprints were found. No camera footage captured him leaving. No dropped items marked a path. His behavioral history showed no pattern of wandering. The timeline doesn't hold. Chris and Katie can't maintain a consistent account of the hours surrounding Sebastian's disappearance. The thud changes time. The activities shift. The polygraph claims collapse. The CPS timeline gets exposed. Every version contradicts the last. The behavior doesn't match. Inappropriate smiling, deflection, rehearsed phrases, narrative control, information withholding, eye contact avoidance. These aren't the behaviors of parents desperate to find their child. These are the behaviors of people managing a story. And the motive? It's undeniable. Sebastian's CPS report threatened Chris's custody case. His testimony could have validated every allegation Chris's ex-wife made. His voice was a legal obstacle. And then, before the investigation could conclude, before Sebastian could testify again, he was gone. 7 independent lines of evidence, all pointing inward, all converging on the same conclusion. Something happened inside that house. Something that required Sebastian's silence. Something that Chris and Katie can't talk about, honestly. And until they do, Sebastian won't get justice. Justice for Sebastian means facing uncomfortable truths. It means acknowledging that the people who were supposed to protect him may be the very people responsible for his disappearance. It means refusing to accept a narrative that the evidence rejects. It means not looking away. If this case shook you, you're not alone. We're building a community that refuses to let these stories disappear. A community that demands accountability. A community that gives victims a voice when the system fails them. Subscribe, hit the bell. Because we're covering cases like this every week. Cases the mainstream media won't touch. Cases where the official story doesn't match the evidence. Cases where justice is still waiting. And drop a comment letting me know what case I should cover next. Your voice matters. Your engagement keeps these stories alive. Together, we're making sure that victims like Sebastian aren't forgotten. Because here's the truth. Sebastian Rogers was failed by the people who were supposed to protect him. He was failed by a system that didn't move fast enough. He was failed by a narrative that prioritized comfort over truth. But he doesn't have to be failed by us. We can keep asking questions. We can keep demanding answers. We can keep his name in the light until the truth comes out. And it will come out. It always does. The pressure builds. The contradictions pile up. Someone talks. Someone breaks. And the truth, no matter how deeply buried, finds its way to the surface. Sebastian Rogers deserves the truth. And the truth is still out there, waiting to be found.
Wow, guys, that was huge. Huge, huge, huge. I hope that you all enjoyed that. Super, super thanks to Criminal Instinct for putting that out. I know that, it was an AI generated voice speaking and reading the script, but every bit of it was so impactful, especially at the end where it encouraged everyone to continue to tell his story and do not let his story die off. I wanted to play it more than anything because of the CPS case that was going to court. I had been told about that. It's just recently being talked about. Sebastian was supposed to testify to a judge, telling all the abuse that he had happened to him by Christopher Proudfoot. And just 2 weeks prior, Sebastian is gone, disappeared without a trace. He has 2 parents that are conveniently telling different stories, conveniently inconsistent about every tiny detail of the timeline, changing the narrative continuously every time they talk. Man, his mother even hired a lawyer, pled the fifth, invoked her right to not speak on reasons of incriminating herself. An innocent mother would never do such a thing. But guys, that's just all my opinion, of course. More than anything, Sebastian deserves to have his story told. Sebastian was quieted. His voice was taken away from him. He was removed from the situation completely so that he could not speak up, so that Mr. Chris's attempts for all those years wouldn't get hurt, wouldn't end. I don't know if it was Chris's idea, his family's idea, or was it Katie's idea? I don't know. I know this, Sebastian is still missing. We're about a month and a half away from it being 2 years. I saw a question in here in the chat while ago about the DA. I have heard from someone that talked to the DA, and they are ready. They're ready. This new DA is ready. The new DA is ready. They just have to have the proof. How do you get proof? How do you get evidence when there's absolutely none to be found? Absolutely none. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you being here. I know Mob Crew is on, so I know a lot of you want to go over there. I appreciate everybody that's come in, everybody that stayed here, everybody that listened. I honestly believe Criminal Instinct had just put out the very best video I've ever seen pertaining to Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. The eyeglasses and the 1 a.m. thud, those two things, I'm not quite sure about. But the whole narrative, the whole average of this whole entire story, every bit of it was about Sebastian. Sebastian was ready to stand up against the bully that he lived with. He was ready. He had found within himself the courage to do just that. And he was removed from the situation. That's what I believe. Let's keep Sebastian in our thoughts and our prayers. This young man deserves justice. And always remember, it's about Sebastian. Everything we do here is about Sebastian. We got the haters, just like the one that just come in. We start talking and getting too close to things. People get a little touchy with that. It's okay. They don't bother me. But guys, I do thank y'all so much. I appreciate y'all. You guys are the reason we continue to go every day live. You all are the reason. So thank you for being you and keeping Sebastian's story out here. Thank you for being his voice while he cannot be here. And let's pray that one day we will get to hear his voice in person. Come back and join me again tomorrow. I think we're going to do something a little different tomorrow. But don't worry, Sebastian's case is not forgotten. It will always remain our number one focus. Appreciate every one of you. Love y'all all even more. Until tomorrow, love and hugs, everybody. Good night.